Welcome everyone to my Wednesday, Weird Wednesday, Unusual Openings, Blitz, and Classical stream. A lot of words to say, but it gets the message across. We're going to be playing Blitz and Classical with the viewers, but we're going to be playing stuff that I don't normally play. So gambits and fun openings. Not totally garbage openings, but just variations and systems that I don't normally play that are maybe fun, like the King's Gambit, Bird's opening, whatever you want. If you feel like taking part, play some stuff that is experimental or gambity. Anyway, welcome. It's Wednesday, December 28th. I'm International Master William Paschall. It's Weird Wednesday, the Unusual Openings day for me. So we're going to have some fun today, play some different stuff. I don't expect perfect games. When we're playing our Unusual Openings, usually the games are of a slightly lower quality, but a higher fun factor. So welcome everyone. It's good to be back streaming again. Yesterday actually was, yesterday was the first day I've been back since last week, and hadn't been back much last week. So it's good to be getting back into the habit of doing this regularly. I was away for quite a while, been going on some trips lately. So it's a relief to be back streaming and get into a regular schedule. Let's see if we've got anyone watching the stream here. Yeah, Sabatni's here. Saronche's on time today. Man, for an unpaid employee, Saronche, you're incredibly faithful, man. No, it's good to see you guys. It's really good to see everybody tuning in. It's holiday season, so I think there's more viewers than usual. Yesterday we had 80-some people, and that's cool. A lot of people are not working, obviously, not going to school if you're a student. So we have more viewers than would be typical for this time. Spinal Tap is online. I was watching him take advantage of someone's mouse slip in a lost position. Jeroen is challenging me. So Jeroen is challenging me. That's cool. He must be in a feisty mood today. He doesn't usually play in the Blitz stream. I'm definitely going to accept your challenge, Jeroen. You guys want to play me? It's something between like 5 and 8 minutes with a small increment. I think we've been suffering a little bit because our regular challengers, like when I'm doing the stream every day, I've got 3 or 4 kind of like regular challengers who kind of line up and get ready to play even before the stream starts. But since I haven't been streaming that regularly the last couple of weeks, we've lost our regular challengers. So yesterday I had to go to the go down to the pool and drag someone out, and it was actually a really fast guy who he managed to beat me on time in a 5-0. Not used to the 5-0. Okay, so Jeroen is playing me 6-4. Okay, Jeroen, let's start. 6-4. I'm white. Unusual openings today. Let's not forget. I wonder what Jeroen plays against his own opening, the Dutch. He'll probably play like symmetrical Dutch. But what else? What else can we play besides the Dutch? Let's play e4 and take it from there. It's really hard to get kind of unusual openings out of like flank stuff. Okay, he played the St. George. That's one of my favorites, personally. I'm going to try to play a little faster, not to get in my customary like brutal time pressure every single game. So he's doing all the work for me here, playing an unusual opening. I just have to beat him. Alright, so this is what I think is the best setup for white. We don't commit the knight to c3, and we play a quick bishop d3, queen e2. There's a certain amount of indirect pressure on the king on e8 and some lines. The black plays e6. So the queen on e2 kind of comes in handy. Here I imagine we can play both knight f3 or c3. Let's try c3. I usually play knight f3, but I'm thinking about it. I mean, it may not be any less accurate to play c3. This is a good move in case of c5 or knight to c6. He did play e6. There are some variations where black plays e5 in one go in this particular line, kind of turning into a sort of Spanish game. So I guess he's foregoing that possibility. Now, you may or may not have seen the famous game where Anatoly Karpov lost to Tony Miles in the St. George defense. In that famous game, Karpov took on c5, which, you know, kind of turns the position into a Sicilian. I never really thought of that as a good idea for white. I mean, there are some variations where taking here might be the best move, but in a vacuum, you don't want to take away from the center. Turning it into a Sicilian is no way to take advantage of the St. George. I mean, black's played a6 on move 1. If I let him transpose directly into a normal Sicilian position, I'm hardly taking advantage of this unusual opening. The thing that seems to be the biggest troublemaker for black in general is a4 at some point. But it's very tricky to decide like when white should do that or not. I'm not sure about playing c3. You know, maybe I'd have more flexibility in doing a4 without c3 having been played. Okay, e5 is possible, kicking the knight to d5, but as is true in almost all openings, it's usually best to keep the tension when given the option. I'm not committing my knight to d2 too early. Then black could exchange on d4, I would think. Miles' argument, I've probably stated this before, but his argument was that the St. George is better than the what is b6? The Owen defense. Byrne, Owen. All these old English masters get confused in my mind. But anyway, so he said that b5 and a6 is better than b6 because black has more space. And sometimes when you do like d5, e5, the knight gets kicked back to d7. Black has a French type position where you can go like knight c6 and knight a5, and maybe the pawn on b5 helps support like the outpost on c4. So black has a bit of a better version of the Owen defense. The downside is that white can play a4 at some point, undermining the pawn chain. Welcome everybody. So we had Christmas weekend. It's New Year's coming up. So I usually do simul every Sunday. But that was not the case this past weekend with Christmas, and is not going to be the case with New Year's Eve, obviously. So the next simul I'm doing on January 8th, Sunday, January 8th. I haven't checked my schedule. I'm almost 100% sure there'll be like a Hungarian Team Championship game on that day. That'll be like perfect. Okay, Queen c7. This is not a bad move. Looking at this type of diagonal here, oftentimes I'll put my queen on b6 in this opening, putting pressure on a different diagonal on d4. Queen c7 doesn't look all that bad to me. Something I haven't personally tried. Almost always prefer to put my queen on b6. Alright, well, not a lot of time here. Unfortunately, it feels like a long time control, but it's not. It's basically just tricky. I was talking to one of our regular contributors here, Scheveningen, who's a Polish, well, basically candidate master strength player, and he said he was going to a rapid tournament, and I said, well, he needs to play some training games at that time control, because my argument is that the time limit is really, really tricky. Anything between blitz and like, well, I would say like 45-minute chess, especially 30 minutes or less, is really hard to play because you really have a hard time allotting or allocating your time. Now, Jeroen played c4. This is a move that I think black should try to avoid. of course, there's a lot of pressure on b5 here, so it's not that easy. But you know, he's not a St. George expert. He maybe doesn't have to defend that, but then again, I am threatening e5, maybe to take on b5. So I have tried sacrificing this pawn in certain instances. There is pressure on e4. And you can get Benko type of counterplay in some instances. But I understand his fear of losing that pawn. But in this case, he is going to basically have some problems because he's taking pressure off my center. Gives me a kind of free hand in the center of the board where these two pawns are very powerful. So he shuts down my queenside play against b5, but at the cost of giving up the center. Well, not giving up the center, but giving up the pressure on my center. So he doesn't have a lot of counterplay. Welcome, everybody. Feel free to contribute to the chat here in Twitch. I'm International Master William Paschall. I'm streaming from Budapest, Hungary, my place of residence for most of the year. I am American, and I do try to spend some time in the USA part of the year if I can afford to travel. But most of the year I've spent here in Budapest. Okay, we have another challenge from Constant Change, one of our regular challengers. I was just mentioning that sometimes when I'm streaming every single day on a regular basis, I've got a bunch of people who want to, are waiting to play. But yesterday and today I've been on an inconsistent schedule the last couple weeks, so kind of lost our regular challengers. Constant Change is one of them. And now bishop e7. So you're now he's in catastrophic time pressure now. 1 minute 33 for the game with a 4-second increment. Catastrophic for some. For others, it's not a big deal. There's some people who are really expert with increment play. And I've noticed that they seem to play just as well with 0 base time as they do. Now this is a sensible move, d6. I could put more pressure on his pawns with like knight a3. Then I suppose black has bishop c6. Well, my gut instinct is to play knight d2 and do the normal kind of Lopez maneuver here. Everything moving to the king's side. Now he's got knight d7. Perhaps with the idea of knight b6, clarifying the queen side. Alright. He's not castled, which is interesting. Though it's hard for black with less space to coordinate his position without castling, without connecting the rooks. I think the bigger problem is the rooks, not really the king being in danger. Oh my. Okay. Yeah, the last time I saw this was against Vietnamese Grandmaster Bui Vinh. He was I think the last time a tournament player played, well, he actually played the Owens defense against me, but the position is pretty much identical strategically. Bui Vinh did something like this. Castling queenside, it's obviously not a traditional solution for black here. Alright, not much time. So I want to play b3, but my c3 pawn is not really well protected, obviously. Not a lot of great squares for my bishop. Okay, this is a really, really lame looking move with a very simple intention. I'm connecting my rooks and I'm readying b3. This time control demands fast, practical decisions. Have you actually seen something like this before? Yeah. I mean, I remember one of the last games I played against Bui Vinh, he played the Owens defense. I was very surprised. And we had a strange struggle in a very long game in a position like this that was fairly closed. He managed to keep it fairly closed. But anytime the queen is on the queen side, it's pretty awkward. I don't really want to don't really want to open this bishop on the long diagonal if I can help it. I was expecting knight e4, but he was maybe nervous that his knight gets trapped in some lines if he does that. Kind of like a French, obviously. He would like to take this way, but I think he just hangs his pawn on b5. Bishop f4. I don't know if this is a good move. Has some drawbacks, perhaps. Now, obviously, I was intending on taking with the knight. But unfortunately, he has some counterplay. Maybe I give him the bishop. He took. I was expecting bishop d6 right away there from black. Rook a7 at some point. Yeah, that should be decisive. Okay. Well, I think that bishop d6, the move prior, would have been much better. You have pawn takes pawn, knight takes. He took, but instead bishop d6. I guess it doesn't make a difference. I still have rook a7. This is probably what he saw, what I wasn't thinking about. But actually, then he has knight b6 hanging on. So it's not that clear. Okay, we've got a lot of challenges, constant change, and then if you guys want to challenge me, anything between 5 and 8 minutes with an increment between like 3 and 5 seconds. Deep 0312, who I've never played before. I just asked everybody has like 50 games played on their account. Back to Basics, who played a nearly perfect game against me yesterday. Fresh Kid. We played a lot of my simul's, and Kyria Kospez, who we played a lot, period. So, let's get started. Don't let me forget that it's Weird Wednesday, so I have to remember to play unusual openings. Constant change, playing e4. I remember once a few weeks ago I played the Latvian Gambit. That it was really ugly. I don't think I'm going to go that far. The problem is if I play e5, I need a little bit of cooperation from my opponent to play an unusual opening, unless I do something really ridiculous like the Elephant Gambit or something. I don't think that's really sound. In fact, I'm not really a big supporter of Chess Base. I have used their products in the past, not really happy with them. Occasionally I'll check that website for news, but you know, there's a lot of product advertisements and stuff like that. And I noticed like there was an Andrew Martin DVD or something on Elephant Gambit. I'm thinking, man, Andrew Martin is really digging deep. You know, if the Elephant Gambit, you know, like is a playable opening that we're really going to do a DVD about, we're running out of ideas. As far as I knew, that's not really a sound opening. Elephant Gambit is e4, e5, knight f3, d5. Basically like a kind of gambit way of playing the Danish Gambit tempo down or something. It's, we're getting really desperate to crank out DVDs, and we start doing serious developments on the Elephant Gambit. Anyway, so we have here the Nimzovich defense, e4 knight c6. I played d5. This is the main move. It's actually not what I normally would play. I would often play d6. I played a lot of games with d6. But that's like a sub-variation. d5 is the main line of this opening. I don't think I ever played a tournament game in this position. At least not by this order of moves. I always played d6. It's inferior to d5 objectively, but the positions are much different. So e4, knight c6, d4, d5. This is c3. c3 is... I would imagine you could get this out of... well, no. I was going to say the French, but that's impossible. It's similar to some lines of the French, but it's not. Not the same. Okay, so e5. Constant change. I mentioned this before. He's a player who plays quickly. Very practical, but he doesn't really seem to care about trying to play like topical openings or really incisively in the opening stage. He just tries to get a playable position in the early stage, which is practical, you know, and allows you to play fast. But I put more emphasis on trying to play more sharply, more accurately in the opening stage. So I usually am behind on the clock when I play against this opponent. But I think here I surprised him with the unusual opening. So he's not playing a position he's ever really, let's say, played very much. Did you watch the World Rapid 2016? Well, no. Too much going on, but with the holidays and such. But obviously, I did read some stories about it. Ivanchuk is playing, as usual, like, fantastically. So, Ivanchuk is leading with 8 out of 10, beating a number of strong players. So he's really, you know, when he's on, he's on. He's extremely dangerous. I think there's several things that make Ivanchuk particularly dangerous, and those are like first of all, his wide opening repertoire makes Ivanchuk particularly dangerous. He's capable of playing almost anything, which isn't that typical for a player of that level. And the second thing is that he's pretty fast. I saw a game he played against, well, I don't remember, one of the Russian GMs, like lesser rated, not lesser, but like a little lower rated than Ivanchuk, or maybe around the same. I don't remember who it was, one of a younger generation of Russian GMs. He had this game where he just ground the guy down, but it was just a matter of attrition. It just didn't seem like he was really better. He just managed to just keep playing till the guy eventually like lost an equal position or something. So Ivanchuk is a heavy favorite at this point now. I guess there's not too many games left. Most of the tournament is over. Alright, so bishop f4. We could play knight to g4 here, but it doesn't feel very developmental. This move may have some hidden traps tactically. Haven't heard much about Ivanchuk lately. I mean, I think his rating has dropped, so he's not like in the top rated players. And he's getting older. Another thing is that he has a tendency to play too much. So when he was in the top 10, you know, he was still like playing tournaments like, I don't know, he plays a lot of tournaments. More than most players his rating traditionally did. So I think that was a handicap, has always been a handicap for Ivanchuk. Why is Magnus on board 1 every round? I didn't follow the videos, so I didn't know about board numbers, but who knows? Maybe it's a publicity thing. Obviously, you don't stay on board 1 every round if you're not winning the tournament in first place. Okay, so bishop e4, rook h2. Constant change is in a little bit of danger here. I might have missed something tactically, but I just didn't see anything concrete. We've got a little bit of an initiative. The white king is obviously not safe in the center of the board. Knight d2 basically forced. Now my bishop is attacked. I'm wondering if this was the right decision or not, but okay, so bishop g6 or bishop c6. I guess our job is done on this diagonal. This might keep his king in the middle. We also have h5 at some point. Not sure. He can just keep it closed with g5 if I do that. But I felt with bishop g6, I keep the king off of c2, which is really the safe haven for the white king in this kind of position. So this is the problem with bishop c6 is king c2. Marketing it placed him that way. TV broadcasts in some countries. What's that? Ivanchuk is playing drafts as well. Isn't he the coach at Texas Tech? I think you're thinking of someone else, man. Some very strange development has occurred. Ivanchuk is a player who, you know, he's around to play chess. So it looks like constant change blundered. Bishop e3. He's not awake yet. Knight takes g4. We don't see very many tactical blunders from this opponent. I think we're just winning a clear exchange here. Or pawn. Clear pawn. I have not seen a lot of tactical mistakes from constant change, unless we're in very, very bad time pressure. But he did not find his way in this game. So we have what should be a completely winning position. Better structure, pawn up, 2 bishops, a safer king. Pretty much everything. We have everything here. There's a question of where the knight should go. Do we have knight f6, or do we play like knight e7 with ideas of knight f5 and knight d5? Is the additional idea of knight f5 that big a deal that I want to put the knight on e7 instead of f6? Probably not. With knight f6 I have direct, more natural development, more direct threats against e3. Vasily Ivanchuk. But it's nice to see somebody, you know, like Ivanchuk win. He's kind of a fan favorite because of his fighting style. And, you know, he doesn't make a lot of Grandmaster draws. He's always playing interesting chess. So you kind of have to root for him. He's a little crazy. A little eccentric. I shouldn't say crazy, but he's always been a little bit eccentric. He's known to pick his nose at the board. I mean, you know, it's kind of fun. I mean, it's not this, like, boring player. The Ukrainian decided to play a drafts tournament during the last Olympiad. He also followed the recent Drafts World Championship. Yeah, Onishuk. Is Onishuk Ukrainian? Or is he Russian? I mean, I realize that he lives in the United States since 2002 or whatever, but actually earlier than that. Just out of curiosity. There's no way to win this e3 pawn by force. Bishop f4. White has a defense. I have a defense for that, he says. Bishop c5, a little bit more natural maybe. He found it. He found it. He wasn't tempted with rook g3, which like loses immediately to rook takes d2 check. Very, very good eye. Good eye, one of those annoying catchphrases of the Little League baseball coach. Everybody has to say that constantly. Alright. Knight d5. So, is there any Hungarian chess players in the tournament? Didn't see the whole list. I would assume so. But Rapport was in China playing Wei Yi. And I'm not sure about the conditions of entry. By the way, I was wondering about that. You know, what is the... Was there a rating minimum, basically? I don't know. You know, I was thinking about it. Do you have to be a GM? I would doubt it's by title. Probably rating or just entry fee. Can somebody tell me what the deal was? We're gonna need this pawn to take part in the fight here. No, I was curious what the requirement was for entry into this tournament. I don't know. I didn't see any Hungarians. I only looked at like the top 20. Man, it's a nice place to have the tournament as far as sponsorship goes. I mean, I imagine that it's fairly rich prize fund in a tournament like Qatar. What are we doing here? How do we finish him off? Ah, rook d2 check. Rook d2 check, king e1, rook e3. Yeah, this seems to be the magic recipe here. Rook d2 check. Followed by rook d3. Still not going to do it. Rook d2 check, we have an interesting line. A really funny line. Rook d2 check. Like pins. And then bishop h5. That's some serious pinnage going on. Leiko's playing in the rapid. Spinal Tap, I really want to commend you on your astute accuracy in Maiden 2 while playing bullet chess. Just kidding, man. I mean, I think you need to master the Maiden 2 a little bit more. But your strategic play, actually, you're far too strategic to be a bullet player, in my opinion. You're kind of like me. It was watching myself play bullet chess. Like, you're constantly missing Maiden 2, and you're just like playing strategically. I saw a couple of your games. I was watching there against the Brazilian guy. It was really nice the way you picked off that mouse slip. Excellent, man. Yeah, Peter Leiko. Paschall as a GM. I imagine it's by rating, but it's interesting. Shuk is Ukrainian. Is Shuk automatically Ukrainian? I wouldn't think so. But it may like historically be some kind of question of that. Okay, Deep 0312. It is Wacky Wednesday today. Weird Wednesday, I've changed it to. Weird Wednesday, and that means I have to play something unusual in the opening. With Deep 0312, this is a new opponent. Well, I don't know, I can't control my F-pawn. Spinal Tap, yeah, I was reading somewhere some strong bullet player talking about like, yeah, tactics and endgame technique, and the endgame technique you're pretty good spinal tap, but yeah, the mate in twos. That Brazilian guy had you smoked in that one game. He played like a positional god, the Caro Kann. By the way, what about the exchange variation of the Caro Kann? You need more training games with James West. Let's see. When I was a junior, I had a lot of training games with National Master James West in the exchange variation of the Caro Kann. Sparkle Horse plays differently from Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap plays G6, and then I saw you play Bishop F5. Is that normal? You're gonna off the guy take. I thought I saw you like pausing like for 10 seconds before you took the piece. I was thinking, God, he's gonna offer him a take back in 30 seconds left. It wasn't a bullet game, right? It was a blitz game. But it felt like a bullet game because you guys were so low on time there. Bishop G4. Yeah, what am I supposed to what am I supposed to do here? I don't know. So, what about that idea? Is that a good idea what you did with G6 Bishop F5? I realize that that's like a normal positional idea. Is that theory? The guy went Bishop F1 after that? That doesn't seem right, Master. Bishop F1. But it actually worked out because then he went knight E2, knight G3. Is that good? I could never really get my head around those G6 exchange variations of the Caro Kann. Never really worked for me. Pan of attack. Pan of attack is different from the exchange variation. I'm talking about this like old school variation. It's a Tomaszewski game. Like white played Bishop F1 and everything. It's a typical like white squared bishop where you don't know what to do with that. In fact, I was sitting there thinking you might even play bishop takes B1 and like trade your bishop on the knight on B1. It's like your bishop sucks so bad, but you managed to make it work. Alright, so deep 0312. Sorry guys, I'm just joking around here. I was spectating one of International Master Spinal Tap's games. So knight F6 here. This is considered to be a decent system for black. We'll have to consult with Jeroen. B3 now? Oh boy. I mean, B3 looks kind of weakening. Everything looks weakening, actually. That's why Jeroen always goes D4 in all of his games. He doesn't like to allow E5 or D4. I guess I'll just castle. Have you decided whether or not to do once a week gambits as openings or not? Well, DST, I hate to make decisions in general. But I was thinking, you know, I mean, it's a little bit redundant. I don't know. It's kind of like a bit redundant to have like gambits one day and then like Weird Wednesday, unusual openings. They're kind of overlapping. But I'll continue to mull it over. E6 here. Now I think that's the wrong idea. Black should play bishop takes F3, bishop takes F3, and E5. And would transpose to what's a pretty good line of the anti-Dutch. I suppose there's nothing wrong with what black did here. It's perfectly playable. It's just not as dangerous for white, obviously. Now B3 starts to look a little more interesting. He could play bishop C5. Okay, this is just taking too long. 6-4. I've never played this player before. Deep 0312. 1300 in bullet. He has bad trackpad skills. 1800 classical, 1500 in blitz. You can all just wonder what my bullet rating would be. You played worse today, Constant Change. I think I confused you with the unusual opening. B3. Well, this is the best way to develop Queen's Indian style for this bishop. The other option would be D3. Classical Dutch. But I think the black hasn't... He's played reasonable moves, but I don't think he's played the best. I mean, castling queenside, giving me the E5 control. Yeah, it's okay for black, I guess, what to say. You know, it's not bad. He didn't play the moves I liked for 2 or 3 turns, but still his position is fine. I don't think he did the best, but good enough. What about knight e5? That could be a problem, no? I didn't really want to do this, but then I started looking at it, and I realized that black might have some tactical problems. Because of the pressure down the f-file here, I mean, is this just going to be difficult for black to protect? Freshkin said I'm bad in bullet 2, too young and not enough brain cells to calculate things quickly. My problem is that my game is too based strategically, you know. I end up like thinking a long time on... And the whole style of my play, I'm playing for like small advantages. And if I play bullet, I have to completely change my style, essentially. You know, I have to just essentially completely change my entire playing style when I play bullet. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I never really enjoyed it. I used to play 2-minute chess, where you can kind of play like it splits. You're just a little short of time. But when you do bullet, you have to change to this like just playing for mate, tactical kind of style. And but I saw, yeah, Spinal Tap there. He had like mate in 1, mate in 2, then didn't play it. Then he had like, he was finishing this guy off up like a rook or something, but then he had mate in 2 again and still didn't do it. He had another idea, and eventually, like with the third mate in 2 staring him in the face, he found it. It just reminded me. I'm laughing because I'm kind of laughing with him. You know, I see myself doing that kind of stuff, and I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Spinal Tap. So my original plan was to play D3 here. I don't see any reason to change my original plan. Leaves his knight on a very awkward square, and we continue to do our business on the f-file. Although we should be a little bit careful here. Queen f3, bishop e7, queen takes f7, rook f8, queen h5, rook takes rook, king takes rook. It's kind of hard for white to do anything constructively. Maybe some queen b5 or something. Yeah, I don't see anything really convincing for black here. You gave me 3 mate and 2s, I'll find the third one. About that, I stumbled recently on a book co-authored by Hikaru on bullet. God, I think I recall something about that. Kind of funny. A book about bullet, right. Well, practical advice, I guess. Maybe it's the thing of the future. My judgment was that I can live with my king on f1 here. Now, a true materialist is going to take this pawn as well. But I was a little bit concerned I might give him some counterplay along the g file. So I was thinking to just content myself with one extra pawn and then call it a day, basically. And the nice thing is that queen g5 also would stop bishop g5. Yeah, this is an entirely passive move. I could play anything here. Knight d2 now. Doesn't really help black. He should have played rook f8 right away. Not worry about this. You know, at least I didn't even want to take that pawn, to be perfectly honest, because it gives black just a little bit of counter chances. So objectively, I thought we'll just content ourselves. One pawn is all we need to win the game, basically. Nope code. Hikaru is a noob at bullet in person. Of course, yeah, he's extremely weak. I know, because he would, even in blitz, he was like, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think that, I remember over the board blitz where he knocked over all my pieces, causing me not to be able to checkmate him with queen and king against king, and the game being a draw. But I don't think it was because he was a noob. I think it was because he wanted to knock over all the pieces until I couldn't win the game. Yeah, it sometimes gets really ugly when you're playing like over the board blitz, knocking over pieces, knocking over the clock. There's lots of good ways you can think of to distract from the actual moves on the board. Basically, we played this two-game blitz match that should have been tied, but he just made it impossible for me to checkmate him with seconds left. Knight d4. Okay, let's take the f file, and then also sometimes bishop a3 might be a good move. He's defending e6 though. We got f-file, pawn up, everything. Naka does not like losing. I noticed that. Did notice that. Queen h5. There's no way to break through after queen h5. It's really irritating. Queen g4. Bishop a3. Ah. No, bishop a3 isn't going to help me here. I think I have to reposition my pieces. I don't like to do this. My knight looked pretty strong on d4, but unfortunately, have to do what we have to do. Now black has a bit of play. Shouldn't be enough still, but he has some counterplay. Made this work. Panicked and dropped a piece. Yeah. I don't think that Hikaru will go down in history as one of the most sportsmanlike chess players who ever played the game. But he's a little better than he used to be. Right. That was the only time I played him live in Blitz. Obviously, I'm not from New York, so... Live from New York. This guy does not want to give up. He's down a piece and not resigning. Love it. It's Blitz, right? Never give up. I'm having a hard time putting him away. The full piece up. I don't want to give him like a lever, you know, to play Queen F2. If he plays H3, I play G3. If he plays G3, I play H3. Whatever. Queen F1 now. Just keep the lines closed. And it's over. Oh. Tough call, but... Okay, so the bird's opening... Yeah, the bird's opening I've kind of struggled with, I have to say. I'm not really thrilled with the position I got out of the opening here either, to be perfectly honest. Alright, back to basics. Fresh kid, Kyriakos Paz. Big chicken, Ashlyn. Not a player I've played before. It is an established account, right? Spirit enough to make things a little simpler. Spirit enough has enough games, and this Magyar, who cares? His name means who cares. Kiderdikal. Alright. If you met Nakamura again in person, would you ask him to apologize? No. Hikaru and I mean, I think it lasts. We were never enemies. I never really loved him, but we never had any conflicts. I didn't make a big deal of that at the time when that happened. I mean, I've had fights with people like over Blitz games before, and this was kind of borderline like time scramble stuff, which I always kind of harbored a little bit of resentment about, but I didn't make a scandal at the time, so I'm not going to make a scandal about it, you know. And we always were civil to each other. I mean, I think that Hikaru, the last I checked, was we were on good terms. But I mean, I just didn't like the way he behaved when he was a kid. He did some things like I've told before. He was very rude to Fedorovich, and I can put that in the past, though. It was a long time ago, but still, you know, he's got to live with those things. He offended a lot of people in his youth. Not against me personally. This was a minor issue, but I imagine he had some worse situations with other people before. Alright, so Queen D7, Rook E1. I think I played like this. Back to basics. This guy played a nearly perfect game against me yesterday. Which is impressive for someone around 2000 here. Like 10 cent a pawn lost or something like that. I played H6. And then Knight F6. I guess this is logical. This is kind of a made-up system for black. Just wanted to play something a little bit out of the ordinary. But I'm not making it up myself. I mean, it's been made up by some other strong players. Some grandmasters have played this for black. Do you get any donations playing online? We do occasionally get donations, but it's really not for playing. I mean, for the stream, for the instruction, and for my YouTube channel. But It's not like, you know, I'm getting donations for playing blitz like I'm in the cafe or something. But not too many. I do encourage people to donate if they can, but unfortunately, money is hard to come by. You need a goal for today, something I'm weak at that I can empower. Serious opinion. Excuse me. Okay, so back to basics with a very logical setup. I faced this particular variation myself in Harkai, Zalakarosh in June. Bishop f5, but it's also been played by some strong players. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. A number of GMs. I mean, if you'd showed me this 25 years ago, I would have said this is absolute garbage that some kind of weak computer came up with. Now knight to d5. Knight d5 kind of prevents me from castling and supports b4. Looks very logical. Not all that long ago, I dropped a knight b6, I think, to somebody. Back to basics. Back to basics seems to... What is he trying to do here? Play b4? It's kind of a tough call for the knight move in this position. Knight on d4. I guess from d4 my knight has retreat squares. Can also play a4, which is probably a good follow-up. In the event of something like knight d2, play a4, bring the knight back via b5 or f5. Black has a bit of space to compensate for the fact that he hasn't castled yet. Custom mods. I'm not exactly sure where we're on there, what we're on conversationally. e45, bishop c4, knight f6, d4. Ah, the Urasov gambit. Okay. Yes, that can be reached by a number of different move orders. Maybe I should just trade this knight. Before he gets trapped or something of that ilk. This is equal, I guess. I don't want him to have a play along this file against the backward pawn, so b6. Trying to remember the game yesterday. Let me refresh my memory. First time I played this opponent. Yes. He missed a very, very nice tactic after playing pretty much perfectly. He had like a win of a pawn that would have left me in a difficult, maybe not lost, but difficult position, a pawn down. He didn't see it though. I was very surprised. Bishop to b2. Shall I take or let him capture on g7? I think it would be better not to take, because it's going to help him double on the b file if I take. I don't want to bring his rook to the second, allow him to kind of double up with tempo. online pot limit Omaha. Yeah, if you play a lot of Omaha poker, sometimes Hold'em seems like a silly game. On the other hand, when you play just Hold'em, Omaha seems like you're just randomly gambling and playing lotto a lot of the time. So there's more than a way to look at things. So here it looks like White's position appears solid. His last move, I would think this exchange is a little bit of a passive reaction by White. I mean, obviously I could put my rook on the 7th here. I do play poker as well as chess, so sometimes the conversation goes that direction, in case anybody's wondering what I'm talking about. Last week I was in Prague playing. I played 9 poker events, the Prague European Poker Tour. I made the money in 4 out of 9. I won only half of my stake back without one good run. But that's kind of the life of a tournament poker player. A lot of tournaments, no money. You got to be lucky. Gone F to A8. There was a chess player in one of my turbo tournaments who took it down. We were on the same table with like 50 people left and around the same amount of chips. It was funny. It could have been me who won that event, but I just immediately got knocked out with ace queen against king 10. Okay, back to basics. Spinal Tap chess. Yeah, what's this? Miscalculation. Or it's some kind of sick tactic. What is going on here? I think he miscalculated. What? He miscalculated. He miscounted his control of A1. I'm famous for my control of A1. Oh, I see. It's a combination like bishop takes G7 or something. This is getting bizarre. I think I can. We have some interesting try here. Queen A4, followed by various annoying moves to ruin his day. Back to Basics is obviously a really good positional player. It's going to be scary if he gets as good as he is positionally with the tactics. He's going to be a very dangerous opponent. I might have miscalculated something, but I don't think so. Well, at the very least, I'm going to be up the exchange and a winning ending. This was a miscalculation by White, though. I mean, he didn't mean for this to happen, obviously. This is just an afterthought. He just forgot how much control I had over A1 and played Rook A1 to trade pieces. A1 is one of my favorite squares. Yeah, unfortunately, DST and most poker tournament series, there's not as many Omaha tournaments, and usually they're higher buy-ins. The Omaha players tend to be oftentimes high rollers. I mean, all the biggest cash games are Omaha, and those players want to play tournaments sometimes, so there's not a lot of low buy-in Omaha. Okay, Fresh Kid, Kyriakos Pez, Big Chicken, Ashlyn, Spiridonov, Kierdekel. Spinal Tap is going to try to make it. Joey's World Tour. Joey's World Tour. I don't think we're going to be playing him. Joey, go get some more games with your new account and come back and see me tomorrow. Or play 30 games really fast. Okay, anyway, we're not going to have time. I don't think we're going to have time to play that many games anyway. One, like 5. They take about 15 minutes apiece. So that's 4, 5 to 6 games will be played, you know, further on the stream. Today is Weird Wednesday, so we're playing unusual openings. Favorite sauces. Dr. Checkmate's here, man. What's up? The Colorado Kid. D4. I've got to think of something unusual. Well, how unusual is unusual? I mean, okay, let's just play the Trompowsky. I mean, I don't know. Let's play the Verisov. The Trompowsky is practically like a mainline opening. Everybody plays the Trompowsky. So I feel like, it doesn't count as an unusual opening. How about E4? The problem is that black can take with the knight here, so it's not really a black Mardeemer. Black could take with the pawn, and then we could play a proper black Mardeemer with white. But we'll play a Verisov. Does the Budapest Gambit qualify as weird opening? Yeah, I would think so. I've played it here in the stream on Weird Wednesday. It's all relative, you know. It's up to us, so yes, I consider it to be like a substandard, non-standard opening, let's say. Budapest Gambit, it's a little sketchy, playable, but one of the saddest moments I think in Anatoly Karpov's career was losing to Nigel Short. Losing a candidates match to Nigel Short and losing in the Budapest Gambit. It's really to give Nigel Short the pleasure of playing a World Championship match. That was really sick. Bishop F5. That's a solid move. I play C5 myself. Quite the dynamic. Bishop F5 is much more solid. Now obviously we could play some kind of safe positional game. Wow, he instantly took with the G-pawn. Now, that's interesting. I mean, you didn't even think about it for like 2 seconds. It can't be bad. Somehow, I like taking with the G-pawn when I play C5, but something about taking with the G-pawn and the structure and the bishop on F5, I don't like it as much. I mean, that's like playing bishop F5 in a normal position with the doubled F-pawns. I would think that you would take back with the E-pawn here and kind of play it like a Caro-Kann. E takes up, but okay, I'm sure it's not all that bad. Oh my god, what do you think about this? Your online rating becomes your FIDE rating. What? What are you talking about? Your online rating becomes your FIDE rating? This is a concept? The Budapest is perfectly fine. If you like slightly worse. I mean, I'm sure there's ways for white to get a slight advantage against the Budapest. You can't say that about other openings like e4, e5. It's sort of like the Slav. Yeah, fine is relative. I'm sure that white can find a way to get a slight advantage against the Budapest Gambit. Most openings, like mainline openings, that's not really the case. But most of us are not perfect anyway. Okay, bishop g6, this is good. Now we have quite the unusual position going on here. Black's threatening to roll with like e5. So I'm going to have to think a little bit outside the box. We seriously don't want to play bishop takes g6. Well, how are we going to deal with the threat of e4, e5, and, well, whatever. f4. Interesting. Kind of hard to argue with f4. I have to say I kind of like it. What would a top grandmaster play? Positional grandmaster. What do we like f4? It's not really that I'm just trying to be a cheapo artist. I'm trying to meet the threat of e5. That's the thing. I've got to control this counterplay Black's going to get. So this is a kind of defensive move, essentially. I don't know if I've ever played Fresh Kid in Blitz. We have 30-40, 40-40, 30-40, 40-40. 40-40. All simul games. 8-5. Okay, we did. Was it yesterday? Okay, yesterday. Or a few days ago. Last week. We had a game. My short-term memory loss. Have you played the Danish Gambit? Yes. Last week. We had a successful Danish Gambit. Black didn't know the line and lost quickly. After c3, I mean, I kind of like the main line for Black. Black obviously equalizes against the Danish Gambit and probably gets a slight advantage in some. Might get a slight advantage in some line. I don't know. I'm not that up on it. What's the highest level tournament a provisional player can compete in the FIDE? How much money do you have, sir? It all depends. It all depends on your bankroll. Queen c8, look at that. Okay, so Queen c8, let's just be rational here. I know that it's a closed position, but he's taking his queen off a good diagonal. He's also going to stuff up, you know, his development on the queen side. So I think we're happy to see Queen c8 in general. Knight e2 or knight f3? Knight f3 stops e5. We're still on the theme of stopping e5. Making sure that's not a possibility. But I imagine Black still has a reasonable game. It's very solid, the Slav. There are questions about the Black King, where it's going to go. My main focus is not allowing e5, not allowing these pawns to get out of control. And maybe eventually getting my king to a safe position. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, if you're unrated, mean, I don't think there's any rules about, like, the rating of what, you know, your opponents can or should be in that kind of situation. I mean, there's no hard and fast rules about that, I guess. But they're constantly changing rules about everything. I don't know. I just imagine anything's possible with a corrupt organization like the FIDE. You can pretty much arrange anything you want if you have enough money. I've certainly heard of enough funny business. But essentially, I'm not sure it matters, like, for the provisional or unrated player, like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you play, like, your first 9 games against 2600s, you know, if you lose them all, you'd still get, like, a 2200 performance, right? Something in that department, in that. Do I want to castle queenside or kingside here? Maybe queenside, right? He played queen g4. This queen doesn't have too many squares there. If I play h3, I don't know. Trade queens, slightly better ending for white. This closed position, I don't really think his bishop can be better than a knight. His bishop. Notice my not pluralizing. His bishop can't be better. Right. I mean, it's pretty much forced to play bishop takes d3. What are you going to do? Like h6, f5, bishop h7? I mean, so I think we're a little better here. It's still, black is pretty solid, but I prefer white now. If this is an argument, better king. We did get another pawn closer to the center. Black didn't play f5. What is he up to? Knight d7, he just wants to get developed. Do we want to play e4? Maybe not. I'm thinking about some crazy stuff. Like rook c1, e6, f5, that doesn't really help me though. g4 allows h5? Do I care? Maybe not. Alright, no, it's just a blitz game. I don't think there's any way I'm going to play perfectly here. Expected him to play f5 rather than trade bishops. Yeah, but it makes his bishop really bad. It's awkward. I mean, f5 with the bishop on g6. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it just felt a little awkward. What do we do here? He's still really solid. I mean, f5 isn't out of the realm of possibility. Most people are reluctant to do that, you know. I need a little time. I'd want to have a little more time to evaluate the long-term consequences of doing that. I kind of don't blame black for not doing it with a limited amount of time to think about it. H6 is nice and passive. I like that. I like that. Random choice of squares. Oh, he walked into it on purpose or by accident. The random choice of squares. There's no tricks. I'm a mind reader. Yeah, obviously black can play e6 first, and he still remains a tough nut to crack. But this pawn is a major victory for me to pick that off. It's still not not an easy win. Minority attack, b4, b5. Thing is, black has some counterplay on the other side. I'm not sure if my last move was good. I mean, it's not that bad, but I'm not sure how good it is either. Ooh, bishop d6. This I thought was a better square here. Because objectively, he's going to go knight d5 or something. What's the deal here? Knight b5. Yeah, he can... Thinking about this. Freeze these pawns. It's a pretty big commitment, though, for my knight to have to remain there on g3. Maybe the other knight can improve itself. Knight b4. That's a strong knight on d5. This is going to be a little bit difficult. I give up. I give up on that plan. I changed my mind. I've got to get rid of this knight on d5. It's absolutely brutal. I guess I could have played knight e2 and tried to play e4 there. Maybe that was better. My pawns get a little fragile. Just gotta go. Just too strong. Guys, we have time for probably like 4 more games. Yeah, I don't think he can afford to take with the pawn there. Now I can play e4. There's very little black can do here. His c5 break. Okay, I'm about to lose on time. Man, dude's defending like God. Alright. Finally, he made some sort of mistake. Couldn't he have just moved his king there? Whoa. Well, what is that about? Do not panic. He resigned. I mean, I was afraid your king could actually come up here. I wouldn't resign yet. Rook takes, check, king b5, knight check. Excuse me. Check, king b5, knight takes g4, king a4. You're only 2 pawns down with a good blockade against my extra pawns. You've got a5 lever. I don't know. I wouldn't resign. Still some counterplay for black. Kyriakos Pez 6-5. Okay. Unusual openings. Sometimes I'm playing a3. Let's try c3, the Saragossa opening. I've used this on occasion, but it does have a tendency to transpose to it has a tendency to transpose to other kind of normal systems. Didn't see the fork. Well, I don't think it's that devastating. So d5. Yeah, nice arrow. So e4. You could also, I've also thought of doing this as a kind of means of playing the Alekhine's defense, like as a reversed opening. So c3, e5, knight f3, e4, knight d4. You can play a kind of Alekhine with colors reversed. But d5 is much harder. Harder to deal with, to come up with something original. Oh well. There's really not much to do here. I guess we could play another kind of Dutch. A strange Dutch with c3. c3 is not that unusual of a move in the Dutch. c6, often played. The queen check could be useful in some lines, I guess. Queen b3. I wanted to try something unusual. Normally I would play d4 in that position, but I don't want to just transpose to like a London system, which is far from an unusual opening. c3 and e4 is playable, but I don't know. I don't really think that I like the white square weaknesses after c3 being played in that kind of position. I want to get into some kind of Leningrad Dutch with like c3. The Stonewall, this is not a good move order to get into some sort of Stonewall Dutch. Birds opening, if you will. Our second bird opening type of thing. But I couldn't think of anything else really interesting to do after d5. Okay, so it's a Leningrad type position. I have talked about learning to play the Dutch. Wow, b6. That's a very sensible Kramnikian kind of approach. Yeah, I mean, in this case, I like this. I mean, c3 doesn't seem that useful in comparison to b6, bishop b7. So I would think this would be a good setup for black, more or less. Non-confrontational. What are we doing? Well, there's really nothing to do. He does block this sort of check type of... I don't have to worry about knight g4 and queen check, like you might see after c6 or something like that. But what's white's plan here? It's really hard. Slowly gain space and try to attack on the king side like it's a closed Sicilian. That would be my thought. I mean, e4 looks like impossible to ever achieve. Now he played c5, which isn't essential for black. He could play without that. I would think it would be okay to omit c5. Not necessary, obviously, but okay. Queen e1. A4 is weakening. Knight a3, knight c2. H3. Queen e1. Or knight e5. This is also an idea. But all that does is really, I think at the end of the day, maybe just trade pieces. H3 and G4. Maybe develop a piece here. It's almost never good to put the knight on D2 in this type of position. Pretty much never good. This is really the only good square for the knight. Now knight c6 and queen e1 with the idea of e4. It looks pretty typical. A good question for me, have you had any students who have eventually become stronger than you? No, that I can think of. I've had a couple students who reached master, but nobody who was like FIDE master or higher that I know of. A few people have fallen off the radar, but I don't think anyone's got above like 2300. Of course, I'm not the most prolific teacher. I wasn't really teaching chess that much since the last 5 or 6 years, but I have into the past had quite a lot of students over my life, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I would have someone who got stronger than me, but I think 2300 is the maximum. I mean, yeah, I haven't really worked with anyone above 2350 on a regular basis for a long time. I mean, a few strong players have consulted with me around 2400, but these are players who are already strong masters. So no, I've never helped anyone like get higher rated than myself. It's a pretty tall order. I mean, one of the kids I worked with could easily have become a strong player, but it's not like Jeffrey Zhang, who, like, I think his coach was my friend Babakuli Anikov, if I'm not mistaken. He's had quite a few kids become higher rated than, well, become really strong. I mean, there's not a lot of Jeffrey Zhangs around, but I guess that's the coach's dream, to create grandmasters. Alright, A6. It obviously depends on where you are, and like if you're working with a program teaching chess in the schools, maybe in a big city or something like that. A6, good move. A little bit, I don't know what to do other than the standard type of G4 here. Both have pretty much quit. 2 of my students made master. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people make master. That's kind of the classic place to quit chess, right? My best friend who taught me how to play chess also got to 2200 and pretty much quit. So G4, we go with the closed Sicilian type of attacking plan here, a la Botvinnik. I'd love to see Caspi play some serious chess again. How old is Kasparov? Is he like... Is Kasparov 60? Or is he less? I'm just thinking, Kasparov should be around 60, right? Let's say in 82, he was probably in his early 20s, and you add another 35 years. Was he like 58 or so? 59? It's getting a little bit late. He's not that old. Wow, he's 53. Wow, he's just 53. Okay, yeah. There's still time left. Well, Kasparov could play, but he's... Even we saw his match against Kramnik from the early 2000s, whenever it was. Was it 2001 or... when he lost, quote-unquote, lost the match against Kramnik. I mean, it was evident to me that he was not really fully into it, you know. All right, concentrate. We've got a minute left. I'm not that familiar with the themes of this kind of position, not playing the Dutch on a regular basis. As a King's Indian player, there is certain carryover. But I mean, think Kasparov's preparation is a huge handicap. He has no preparation anymore, and hasn't, you know, for the last 15 years. So that's a daunting task to ask someone like that to, oh, by the way, you know, get back to world-class level of opening preparation. He was already clearly not that well prepared for the match against Kramnik. Playing openings like he never played, like the Queen's Gambit accepted. I was like, what is that about, you know? Kasparov playing the Queen's Gambit accepted? That's ridiculous. Like, it's not dynamic enough for him. Then he's not Kasparov, you know. So he'd need to like completely relearn the openings. I'm not saying that he's completely out of it, but still, it's one thing to be the strongest amateur in the world. It's another thing to be like up to par with the other top 5 in the world on the level of opening preparation. Alright, so e6, trying to trade queens. Oh, man. Very solid move, obviously. What do we want to do? Avoid exchange of queens. Controversial decision here. Get bad knight into game. That's how I'm thinking, like a robot. Get bad knight into game. No time for calculation. Just think on general principles. Bad Queen's Indian knight in game. Centralized pieces. No bad pieces. Maybe play f-file. It's going to be hard to attack the c5 pawn with the b file, the c file blocked. Not giving me a lot of choices. C4 is interesting. As are a lot of moves. But c4 gives him some counterplay. And g5 is pretty debatable as well. I don't know if this is the right idea here, but it's an idea. It's really hard to decide what I'm supposed to do. Wow. Going knight f5. Oh. It's not. It was not really part of the plan, sir. Did not really expect you to do that. Wow, he's really coming after me. This is a bizarre position. Look how he's usurped control of e4 against me. Man, bishop takes f3. Oh, and there's even tactics and everything. What? He insta-moved on g takes f? Okay, that's pretty hard to believe. He insta-moved on g takes, e takes f there. Just crushed me like a dog. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty impressive game there. Pretty impressive game. But it's interesting that he insta-moved on e takes f. That's not a move that one would expect. Let's try to play something a bit offbeat here in the English opening. You play the Grob and avoid, if I asked very nicely. Yeah, I would probably play it if you asked very nicely. I wouldn't normally want to play the Grob. Well, what happened there? 1 minute I had a pretty good position, and then he first found this plan of knight f5, and maybe I should have put my queen on f2. Then everything fell apart. Bishop takes f3, followed by sacrifices on d4. I shouldn't have taken with the pawn, but I was probably lost anyway. f5. Now, I'm sorry I played c4 now. If I had known you were going to play f5, I would have played d4. It's rather difficult to play something unusual here for white. We could consider black's Dutch. I don't really like calling the Dutch an unusual opening, but it is for me. As you can see, my wonderful play with the birds opening there last game led to a very successful result. But I was impressed by black in that game. And also very fast at the end there. Merciless, like a strong master. Okay, so g3. I mean, when someone plays pawn takes pawn there, you're not expecting... There's 3 different pieces I could capture with. And I was like, wow, he insta-moved when I played pawn takes, which is definitely not what you would expect. Okay, I don't know. I can't really play anything unusual here. I mean, what am I supposed to do, you know? Black's playing the unusual opening. I mean, we'll just say the Dutch is the theme of the day, and black has played the unusual opening here, so to speak. So English against the Dutch were transposed to a normal Dutch. Well, he's played like me last game. You can have a mirror image of last game. Clearly time for b4. Maybe. I mean, I don't have a problem with b4 here. You can play a double fianchetto against anything. You can certainly play it against the King's India. And b4 is... You mean b4 on move 1. Yeah, I realize, understand now. You're talking about b4 on move 1. But b4 is always good. I mean, you don't have to play it on move 1. In this particular position, though, I'd rather see this pawn on d6 before I played b4, I guess. I'm not going to play b4. b3 is okay. That melted down. Are you aware the word weird is misspelled in the title? Well, I occasionally do that, but nobody had mentioned it. Title, weird. Yes, it is. If I change the title, is that gonna... Well, okay. Well, just to make you happy, yes. You know what? That's one of the weirdest words to spell in the world. The word weird. No, it breaks the fundamental rule of I before E except after C or whatever. I before E except after C. Except when it's the word weird. Then it just doesn't follow that childhood rule. What's the other word? Maybe one other word I could think of. You meant C4, F5, B4 for the interesting English-Dutch line. Yeah, a little anal retentive, I agree. I think you need to focus on the important things. Alright. Big chicken. I'm not going to follow my last opponent's critical line with b3 and bishop b2. That is a variation. I don't really like it particularly. d5 though. Okay, so with d5 I think that black has some kind of weird Fianchetto-Grunfeld going on. It's probably not that bad for black, but not that good. Queen b3, kind of interesting attempt. I don't know if queen b3 is a good move, but it's probably not a bad move. Alteration, look at you. Alliteration. I can't read, I need glasses. Yeah, weird is one of those words that has been problematic throughout my life. I don't even really, I'm never sure when I see it which way it's supposed to be spelled. But to be honest, when I typed it in, there was auto-saved a previously typed spelling of the word that I had put in earlier, and I said, oh yeah, that has to be right because I typed it before. So funny enough, I was actually not sure, but I was like, okay, I'll believe the previously typed version. I guess not. Even Chucky is here. We did lose a brutal game last game. Not just, we were just not mauled, but he mauled me on time too at the end. Like, he just turned on the afterburners and I was just toast. Where did that come from, Kyriakos Pez? You just ate your Wheaties today. Absolutely slaughtered me. Well, there wasn't much to do. It was fairly straightforward, I guess. Alright, pawn takes pawn. Queen's placement on b3. Ooh, he took with a knight. Big chicken. I know the big chicken is... He's definitely not a specialist in positional play like Spinal Tap. At this point now, what do we do? I mean, the knight is sort of... a good piece. Pawn takes would be more natural for black. Bishop f4 I was thinking here, honestly. kind of like it. It's fun. Spinal Tap style. Bishop Bishop f5. Watch Ivanchuk win the rapid. Well, he should win it. I mean, he's got 8 out of 10. He's playing well. I think he's got to be the favorite at this point. But anything can happen. Maybe he gets tired, you know. He's, what, around the same... Well, he must be a few years younger than Kasparov, right? Actually. Late 40s? Queen b6 now. Okay. We can win a pawn. Is it enough? Are you sure we can win a pawn? No. I take it back. Man, it looks like we have an awfully good position here, though. This looks really good for white. Massive control of d5, of e5, excuse me. I was expecting him to take back on d5, actually. Spinal Tap is going to think I'm obsessed with this concept, taking on b8, but... You know, you got to argue that this is... This isn't a bad idea. Let's see. Is that enough for me, though? The problem is otherwise he plays knight c6 and just blocks the position forever. I guess I can play knight to e5 here. Come to think of it. Knight e5, knight c6, bishop takes d5. What's the follow-up? Our tactical hero. Maybe I do have a follow-up there. Oh man, I'm going to lose on time. No brain, no pain, right, big chicken? If you don't have to consider positional factors, you play with just tactics. You don't really need to use that much time. It's actually, it's dangerous for the player who has to use a lot of time. Bishop e6 though. I really thought knight c6 was a critical try. He's in a pretty good mood. Wow, knight a6. Look at that move. Where does he get that move from? Where did he get that move from? It's going to be very hard to make progress. He has 3 minutes more than me. Coming off a brutal loss last game. Don't believe in psychology. I don't believe in reality. Bishop f6 with a very subtle threat. To play like purely with tactical ideas. Bullet player. I would think the Big Chicken would have a much higher bullet rating than he does in regular chess. Isn't that weird? He's actually seen my, he's read my mind here with knight b4. He like totally read my mind. This is actually a good positional plan, knight a6 and knight b4. I was criticizing for lack of positional play, but if you think about it, this was actually a really, really brilliant positional idea to play knight a6 and knight b4. And tactically too. He solves all of his problems. And I fell into it. Just because I was low on time, he took away my best move, knight d3, at the exact right moment when I needed to play it. He's got 2 minutes to 17 seconds. But ratings don't make sense to me. I mean, with his style of play, how fast he's playing, his bullet should be higher. I would think he'd be really good at bullet. Doesn't really add up to me. I mean, why wouldn't you be better at bullet than you were? You played this so quick. Correspondence 2200. So actually, the longer the time control, the stronger he is. It's kind of weird for his style of play. Not really a positional player. That's kind of strange to me. Wow, bishop takes there. What is this, some sort of tactic? Very fast, too. Look how fast he is. He gives up his bishop pair. Playing with bad bishop. Not too many people would want to do that. Now I made a tactical error. He could have played bishop e6 there as well. Okay, now maybe we see he panics. He started to panic. Maybe that's why he's not good in bullet. Just nerves. He just sort of like got nervous. Very fast, but he may have tendency. You see, psychology is important, guys, if you want to understand your opponents. If you want to understand the strengths and weaknesses of your opponents, this is another good positional concept he came up with. What about this bishop ending? I mean, it should be winning for me, even with the bad. Incredibly fast, isn't he? From a bad position, too. I really shouldn't be trading too many pieces here. Pawns, that is. Guys, we have time for 2 more games at the most. Where's he gonna go? Doesn't have knight b4. He doesn't have knight b4. Did I just say that? I thought I just said that. Does he have it? I don't think you can survive this. I could screw this up though. This should be a winning king and pawn ending. G4? Not necessary. It may end up being necessary, but not right away. Incredibly fast. The one critical mistake of blundering a pawn, kind of panicking, but in general his speed is extremely fast. And this was actually quite thoughtful. Why did I do that? I mean, his defense is unreal. I'm still not sure I'm even winning here. Now I'm clearly better. He shouldn't take, obviously. Can't figure him out. He has massive time advantage. Spirited Nov 7-4. Never played before. Yeah, you guys are good. I didn't have to remind you not to challenge me to rated games. Resignanian's here. Strong player. He's higher rated than me. Yeah, Alamau. Alamau tries to get me no rated games. Anyway, we have time for just 2 more games. What do you mean he was all about psychology? Made a lot of very controversial comments. Don't take the quote literally. What? Oh, talking about Bobby. Bobby's like a case study. Taking his comments literally, well, you have to like put everything the man said under the microscope. It's not clear if it was literal or psychotic or just paranoid. Alright, so we're playing Accelerated Dragons. 1500s. Should be a pretty weak, but it's a new account. Just 200 games. Yeah, that's a mistake. You can give him a take back. We didn't give any take backs today. What? Why you always play versus what? What you guys are talking about? Spiritonov. I just called him that because I don't want to pronounce those last letters, which he randomly typed in the keyboard. Bishop to d3 now. This is one of those positions where you could play d5, but you don't really want to, because it just liquidates everything. If I'm playing a strong grandmaster, I mean, this is definitely a good move. But against a random player that I have to beat, I think I'm just trading stuff. So if you do choose to play the Accelerated Dragon, beware when you play d5. When you do that, you're like liquidating everything and probably making it easy for a guy to draw against you. So if you really want to win, you have to keep the position, keep the pieces on the board, and keep it complicated. Low skill. Oh, LS means low skill. Of course. Sir, I guess you're a 2600 GM. Alright, knight to d5. What's the average rating on lichess anyway? Does anybody have a statistical guess? 15 something, right? 16? No, I discriminate against people, man. I like to tell them they suck when they're under like 2,000 and then they're not allowed to play. That's the way to be. All right, B takes C, and we win a pawn here. Clear pawn up, center. Essentially a winning position. Guys, make a note that LS means low skill. I didn't know that. I didn't notice that in the Urban Dictionary, but now we know. Bishop takes, so another free pawn. I'll take it. Normally I'm not materialistic, but this pawn is fairly important. I mean, I think it's sort of the base of his remaining pawn chain. It would guard c3, and I think I wouldn't take the exchange if he offered it to me. There's a Bobby Fischer conversation going on in the chat. Always a good one for the holidays. Something nice and cheery. Okay, now we've got the massive pawn. The pawn amoeba. This will be a quick game, guys, so we'll have time for at least one more. Possibly two. Kierdekel actually gave me a really tough opening yesterday. Spinal Tap. We'd love to get Spinal Tap, because I don't play only weak players. International Master Spinal Tap. If we can make it there. One of those weak players just crushed me a few games ago. Rating only goes so far, I guess. Does anybody know who the player is? Beep beep, I'm a Jeep. Is that a secret? The I am here who's like top in the bullet list? Is his identity like really secret? I was wondering who that can be. F4. Influencing the center. It's a little late for that. Just kind of asking that question randomly. Actually, DST was here. If anybody knows, he would know. He knows everybody. Who's the bullet chess? He's a GM in table tennis. Who is that? Yeah, I would have thought that 1500 is like average. Maybe 1600. I'm going to grab another pawn on a2, man. I'd like to end this game and develop my pieces. But it's not that easy to finish white off. We'll probably have to get the whole pawn formation avalanching with f5 and e4 to finish the game quickly. He exchanges on e5. I think that's a mistake in general. Bring another pawn toward the center, toward the avalanche. Unless he has a particular tactical reason for this, he shouldn't exchange on e5. Maybe he wants to play like bishop e4. He's looking at my rook. I don't know. Exchange sacrifice on e5. He's already down a lot of material. That wouldn't be a bad idea, actually, if white wasn't down 2 pawns already. I wouldn't mind that exchange sacrifice right there. Looks like a good try. I almost played rook to b8 here. Maybe it's a good move, actually. Got to watch my rook on a8. He could play an interesting move there, like queen f3. Imagine that. Rook b8, queen f3. Let's. Well, queen f3. What am I going to do? So it's not a good place to go. Rook c8, rook d8, rook e8. Spirit enough, go man. Spirit enough. I like it. Spirit enough. No, spirit enough. It's like an old school Bulgarian GM. I think it's Bulgarian. Correct me if I'm wrong. The guy might still be alive. I'm not sure. Spirit enough. I like spirit enough. The table tennis master. Who is the table tennis master? It's been a long time since I was any good at table tennis. The last time I played table tennis was like 15 years ago. They were playing table tennis at EPT Prague. But, you know what? You gotta practice. I played a lot of table tennis when I was a kid, but if you don't play for 15 years, you're in trouble in table tennis. This is a nice little cheapo. So he is Bulgarian. That's funny. We're on the right track. See, I'm spirited enough. That's funny. Alright, rook on a to c8, avoiding the back rank. Rook. I think the only other language where I've seen like spirit is maybe Greek. But there could even be like some intermixing of... Bulgaria is not that far from Greece, so... That's his real name. I don't know how to pronounce Dijlqk2. Queen a5. This game is proving very difficult to finish off. I guess there's an argument for just trading pieces with rook c1. But that could also lose by force. Nah, it's okay. I think it's okay. Now here he's threatening to win by force, possibly with rook d5. So I think Spiridonov he's of the tactical persuasion. Let's go back and guard our back rank. But the 2 pawns is decisive. 3 pawns. Guys, one more game after this. After struggle against Spiridonov. Spinal Spiridonov. Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap isn't going to make the cut. He's like breathing a sigh of relief. Thank God. How's the business going, Spinal Tap? The business world. Well, I guess we just start running. Running with pawn. He's blocked his own movement there. Maybe rook d5 was the best chance. Wasn't any real follow-up. There wasn't any follow-up. Now it's over. Too late. Too little too late. Spiri, I think, is Greek. Prefix. Alright. Kierdekel. Who cares? In Madirul. There's a lot of strong players waiting to play. Spinal Tap Resignanian. Why don't you guys challenge me earlier? I get accused of being a rabbit basher. I try not to discriminate. 1500, 2500. Pretty slow. We'll play table tennis after this. Don't destroy him, please. So, CC is the table tennis master. Oh, you mean me? Don't destroy my next opponent? The friend of mine who taught me how to play chess had a table tennis in his basement. Table tennis, table. And it seems redundant to say table twice, but anyway. So we used to play a lot of table tennis in between blitz, and there was also a dart board. Sometimes the games got so violent, we'd actually throw darts at each other. Alright. We talk about Nakamura being an angry loser. Or not liking to lose. See the formative years of my blitz training. Kierdekel. Last time I played e4, he really played the rouser. He played the Roy Lopez very well. And anyway, we're supposed to play unusual openings today. So if I do play e4, yeah, it's not going to be a Lopez because we have to play something out of the ordinary. So we didn't play any King's Gambits today. There was a request for the Grob. I'm sorry, Grob person. It's against my chess religion. I would have played the Grob if I had remembered, but it fell out of my... Well, he insta-moved g5. Kierkegaard, I think we were caught pre-moving. He was caught with the pre-move. Now, maybe g5's not that bad. I think that's more appropriate against knight f3. But no, seriously, I mean, if I try to play something like queen h5, it looks a little coffee house. I'm not really of the persuasion that this is necessarily a good move. Queen h5, queen e7, or even knight h6 for that matter. But what else can we do? Well, I mean, I guess you could get into some kind of good Kizaritsky or something like that. Like, not really. I mean, knight f3 here. This is going to transpose, so... Preempted knight f3. What should I do? h4? Some kind of crazy undermining move. Just d4. I don't know what to do. It looks ridiculous to play g5, but not being an expert in the King's Gambit, I don't know automatically what the refutation of g5 is. It's a reverse Grob. What's the refutation of g5? If it was a Queen's Gambit, I would say like h4. Could even play g4 there. Not sure. I'm not even sure that g5 is that bad, actually. Queen h5 just... Well, I could play queen h5 and h4 follow up, like knight h6. Queen h5, knight h6, h4, d5. And then, like, he's not trapping my queen, actually. Is he? Not really trapping my queen. Queen h5, knight h6, h4. It's an interesting line. It feels tempting. The other thing is queen h5, queen e7. I mean, that's hitting my pawn with check, and the knight f3. Not that convinced by this. don't know. Queen h5 just looks to me like it's a little bit coffee house. Not developing the pieces. But it's possible that it's not so bad. Weird. How do you spell weird again? You read yesterday that g5 is a mistake here. He clearly mouse slipped. I mean, pre-moved it. Against expecting knight f3 automatically. Yeah, but it's probably like one of those billions of moves in chess that's not the best, but not that easy to clearly find, you know, a concrete refutation to. There probably is no refutation to g5. It's just not the best move. It's looking like a Fischer defense. Knight f3. So maybe we're benefiting by delaying knight f3. That's the theme here. And we look for h4. Secure to e4. Queen h5 now is a little more interesting than it was before, being that e4 is protected. So something like queen h5. He'd also have queen d7, a new defense. In the Evans sometimes, I guess. Queen d7. Queen h5 still feels... No, he doesn't have that because I have queen takes g5. Never mind. Queen h5, queen e7. What's my follow-up? h4. It looks pretty interesting. It looks pretty interesting. Queen h5, queen e7, h4. Then what? Bishop g7 maybe. And then I have queen takes g5. Alright, for the sake of having fun, I'm going to play this. I really don't feel like this is Teilchen correct. Meaning, it's not totally... It doesn't feel totally correct, but play knight h6 quickly. Right, but you're not threatening to trap my queen. Yes, you are. You are threatening to trap my queen. Ooh, there might be some complications. I guess I have to do this. Yeah, but you did bishop g4. It's a tragic mistake. You have to play g4 here when life is complicated. I mean, unless I'm missing something really important. Black's pawn structure just fell apart. He thought he was trapping my queen or something, I don't know. Or no, he expected bishop takes f7 maybe? Maybe he fixated on bishop takes f7, realized he has like king e7, and then he wins a piece. But that would work, right? He was obsessed with bishop takes f7. You guys say psychology is not that important, but maybe I can understand his thinking here. You know, he was like thinking about bishop takes f7, then realized king e7. Maybe even king d7. But forgot about simply that I'm going to take here with the queen. Black's lost positionally here. It's only a pawn down, but he's lost the center. He has weak pawns on f7 and h7. Guys, I'm going to be back tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, when we'll we'll just miss conveniently playing Spinal Tap, because it's time to go. Because I only play, what is it? Oh man, I forgot the Urban Dictionary again. What's it called? LS. Sounds like a disease or something. Bishop e6, yeah. I don't want my pawn structure to be broken, if I can help it. If I can help it, we want the pawn structure to remain in one piece. This is important feature here. My entire game is based on having a better pawn structure, control the center, and these being weak. So if I let him take on c4, I'm probably still better, but at least it kind of gives him some hope of counterplay. Me having like a bunch of isolated pawns. I already have a couple of isolated pawns already. I don't know if I like this exchange on b3 though. Opening the A file for me seems beneficial for white. When are you going to go versus HS? Yeah, we're going to duck. We're going to duck. You know why I'm going to duck Spinal Tap though? Today is a brutal day for me. I have 3 lessons and I have to record a video. Any other day, Spinal Tap, I would go over the limit against you. If this was tomorrow, I would accept your challenge. But we've got to keep the tension in the air too. One of these days, I'm going to get you, Spinal Tap. I think he wants to play me because I criticized his mate in 2 technique earlier when I first started the stream. I was spectating some Spinal Tap games, and it seems like he needs a little work on the mate in 2s. Though he's very, very good at... He's extremely good at picking off like mouse slips. And I wouldn't offer a take back with just 30 seconds left either. I mean, I do offer takebacks for obvious mouse slips, which is a policy that a lot of people don't agree with. I think it's up to you. But I don't think you should do it like when you got like 30 seconds or less left. I side with you on that, Spinal Tap. But I have an awful day today. Actually, the whole week has been pretty like nothing, but today I have really no break. Just work. Kierdekel here is in a lot of trouble. He could have possibly played bishop e5. Then d4, bishop f4, I guess. Might have been better than this. This makes it very, very, very solid for white. This pawn formation, and what you call that exactly, but I like it. It looks like the state of Massachusetts or something, I don't know. Knight e5. Good night. Good night, sir. This is pretty powerful. It actually looks like the eastern part of the United States. I guess that's what it looks like. This is like Maine, New York, Florida, Midwest. There's no West Coast. I need a couple more pawns to make the entire country of the United States. That h7 pawn is... I don't know, rook h3. We have 2 files. We are down to 50 seconds. Knight's on Priest says, I give opponent When opponent castles with 2 hands. What if we just let him take on f5 here? I think that's... Actually, he took away his only defense. He was... he might have been able to play knight f8, but it's obviously it's horrible to do that. So that was the only physical way of defending h7. But it was a pre-move mistake where he played g5 too early. But in fact, if he hadn't blundered with bishop g4, I'm not sure, you know, that his position is all that bad. The opening isn't that bad for black. Spinal Tap does give take-backs, I'm sure. He's a good guy. I wish there was more good sportsmanship in online chess. Any kind of trick or treat. We've got a very powerful 3-on-1 pawn majority on the king side. Another pawn. What can he do, though? I mean, it's impossible to defend. I mean, the knight would be driven away. I'm threatening g6. Yeah. I thought this is a good square. Does interfere with the g-pawn. Maybe he has some crazy perpetuals. I don't know, knight e3. Can he do something like this? Too slow. We free ourselves. He might have any feasible perpetual here. Rook g3, f6. Rook takes pawn check. It's still not a perpetual. Wow, I'm gonna flag? My God. Maybe I could allow some perpetual. Well, 93 probably not the best. We have a little help from our bishop on g7. This rook e7 would be a little more accurate. And I'm criticizing Spinal Tap for not seeing mate in 2. It would be a little more accurate to go here, not to allow him to extend the game with king b8. He's a fighter. Oh. Check. No stalemates. See? Oh, he didn't play king b8. All right, man. Thank you for the game. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. And more Blitz and Classical Chess tomorrow here from Budapest, Hungary. Have a great day. And sorry, Mr. Spinal Tap Chess. You're too HS. We'll be back tomorrow morning. And don't forget to get in the challenge, the lineup there a little earlier, Spinal Tap. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.